Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. In this week's news, a booming brewery, local missionaries spread message to Ghana, and the Scarecrow Festival is coming to town.
Stay tuned. Learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. If you brew it, they will come. Owners of the newest downtown Oxford brewing company, Tom and Teresa Robo, will have discovered this statement is true since opening Gravel Capital Brewing only a few weeks ago. They say business is booming. Tom believes their IPA beer's popularity is due to their being well-rounded and not too bitter. Serious beer lovers are invited to join Gravel Capital's Mug Club. Members receive 20-ounce pours and special mugs they can decorate and store at the brewery. As a club member, customers also will get $1 off every draft, a free beer on your birthday, and 14% off merchandise and 50% off, get this, on one growler on Wednesdays. If your taste isn't necessarily suited to beer, in addition to beer, Gravel Capital Brewing makes 2 types of cider and offers its own selection of red and white wines. Sounds great. Check it out.
Organized by the Downtown Development Authority, the Scarecrow Festival will return on October 12th. The event will run from 11 to 3 p.m. and includes many activities, games, contests, food, and live music. Most of the action takes place in and around Centennial Park. DDA Executive Director Glenn Pape said the Scarecrow Festival remains both kid-focused and kid-friendly, with events including a hay maze, inflatables, and games. Children are encouraged to wear their Halloween costumes and go trick-or-treating at participating downtown businesses from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Downtown restaurants will once again battle it out in a chili cook-off to determine whose savory mix of spices and beans reigns supreme. At stake are 2 trophies, the People's Choice and the Judges Award. Plus, they're going to decorate their scarecrows.
Dan Wells and his wife Anita and youngest daughter Katie are a local missionary family affiliated with First Baptist Church of Oxford and sponsored by Open Door Baptist Missions. The family has been making regular trips to Ghana since 2007, with this most recent trip being their 6th. For 24 days, Wells and his family, who normally resides in Clarkston, visited different villages throughout Accra, the capital of Ghana, and the central region, sharing their Christian religion in the form of a vacation Bible school.
A 38-year-old Oxford woman was arrested Saturday after she allegedly broke into the Dollar General store in Oxford with the intention of trashing the place and getting her nicotine fix. Sioban Justin Kelly was found inside the store by Oakland County Sheriff deputies who were dispatched after a security alarm was tripped at 11:30 p.m. When interviewed by the deputies, Kelly indicated she broke into the store to vandalize it and to steal cigarettes, according to the sheriff's report. Kelly was scheduled to be arraigned on the morning of September 4th in Rochester Hills, the 52nd District Court. We'll keep you informed.
Start your engines and preheat those ovens, because the 6th annual Classic Car and Cupcake Challenge is just around the corner. Automobile lovers and folks with a sweet tooth are encouraged to cruise on over to the Addison Township Public Library on Saturday, September 14th from 1 to 4 p.m. to check out classic cars and participate in the bake-off. To determine those from scratch, or who's from scratch, cupcakes are the best. For those looking to showcase their classic cars at the event, there's a small fee of $10. The Cupcake Bake-Off is free to enter. However, participants are asked to provide additional cupcakes, up to 2 dozen for the bake sale. Trophies will be awarded to winners in both youth and adult categories. Money raised will be used to help fund construction of the new public library in Addison. Great job.
Oxford Middle School is preparing to host its second annual color run on Saturday, September 28th at the Oxford Middle School track field starting at 10 a.m. Everyone is invited to run or walk. The color run has been a nationwide phenomena for the past several years, with numerous runs being held right here in Michigan. Money raised from this event will go into a supply fund to be divided among those teaching at OMS. Funds will be spent on various items to further enrich classroom environments.
Oxford Orient Fish continues to seek a buyer or a tenant for its former food pantry. The building is listed for around $70,000 in Thomas, and Thomas is a small unincorporated village located just east of M24 in the northern part of Oxford Township. Last October, Fish moved its pantry operation into the 5,000 square foot building on M24. Fish is hoping to sell the building and put the proceeds toward providing free groceries to its clients, which includes families, individuals, and senior citizens on low or fixed incomes. But if a buyer cannot be found, Gower said Fish is open to the idea of leasing some space to another nonprofit while continuing to maintain a presence there. Fish Treasurer Randy Gower stressed Fish has no desire to turn a profit. For more information about Fish's former pantry building, please contact Gower at 248-628-3933.
Checking for a possible natural gas leak accidentally created one in the village of Oxford last week. Spokesperson for the Consumers Energy, Deborah Dodd, said one of their contractors was using a pin bar to poke holes in the ground as part of the leak detection process when he accidentally hit a service line delivering gas into the houses. When the homeowner arrived on the scene, Consumers Energy workers were able to detect the presence of gas inside the house. After DTE personnel shut off the electricity, workers turned off the gas and began making repairs. Whoa, that seems like that might have been a dangerous situation.
That could be a very dangerous situation, I agree.
We had that happen accidentally one time. We were digging in our backyard, and my son, who was like 13 at the time, saw what he thought was a root, and he cut it, and all of a sudden, and there was natural gas leaking out everywhere. We were all freaking out. What do we do now?
Didn't set off a fire though, huh?
It did not. No, thank God. But it was a costly repair.
Yes, I had one of my employees in one of my companies I own, and he was doing a similar thing, except when he hit it, he said all of a sudden I had about a 50-foot flame.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
shooting in the air.
I wonder what caused the flame, just a spark of some sort?
Yep.
Wow, well, I guess we got even luckier than I thought, except for that was a really big bill.
Yes.
But anyhow, I want to talk about the Chamber of Commerce. They do so much for our community.
They sure do.
They do a lot for the businesses in the community, but also for the people that come in to this community. You know, they always give out welcome packets, I think they're called, to people that move in. I forget what Deb said this week. You'll have to watch Daybreak, but it was like 73 new packets a month.
I think it includes a Mercedes and
well, I guess I'll move to Oxford. I'll move back. But they have this their chamber book, their profile membership directory, and they've been working on it for a really long time. It finally came out, and it's probably one of the nice directories I have ever seen. It lets you know every single business in the community. It gives their address, their telephone number. There's a nice book map in the middle of the book in case you're new to the community. I'm pretty impressed.
How does one get a copy of this?
They can contact the chamber. They can go into the chamber office, which is the village offices building. So the chamber is the first
off Burdick Street.
door off Burdick. It's what is it, 66 Burdick?
Yeah.
Or
It is.
22.
22.
22 bird.
It was 66.
Sorry. And it's the southernmost, the easternmost door to the building. Or go in either door. And
If we get you
22.
lost, just ask somebody. Police department is there.
It's
They're
that main
they have a great
building,
help.
the office-looking building on Burdick Street, but Amy's always in there. She'll be happy to give you one of these books. It's amazing how many businesses we have in this community and how many businesses belong to the chamber.
Yep.
Which, this is a really good chamber.
Yeah, they put on various programs each year also. Which,
They do. They certainly
involved.
host the Christmas
Yes.
parade. They stay involved, like the DDA's having the Scarecrow Festival. Chamber's involved in that too. There's always great volunteers. Everybody, all the chamber businesses still participate in that
And
DDA
you
program.
folks out there also can check the webpage, for Chamber if you like,
yeah.
get more information. And I know they have pictures in there and so forth and what activities are going on.
I think you can also call them. I'm not going to give you a telephone number. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but just give them a call and I bet they would send you one.
Yep, I
But
know
it's
it.
really neat. There's some cool things in here.
Yes.
And there's pictures of every picture I see in here, it's somebody I recognize.
Well, you've
so
been
if you're
here for
from
a
this
while.
community, it's really heartwarming to see a book like this.
Yes,
It's
it
neat.
is. Great,
So,
I'll check it out
yeah, yay
myself.
for
I really
us.
haven't had the opportunity to do that, so I'll do that for
Right.
sure.
Oxford Chamber, they're if you're a new business in town, get in touch with them because they do advertising for you. They hook you up with us, and we can help you out with some advertising, putting video together. So
Yeah, they're located actually in the same building as the Downtown Development Authority
Yep.
as well. So, and again, you can gain a lot
village
of information
offices.
about downtown by contacting their website,
can.
Downtown Development.
wander down there. Anyhow, that's it for Oxford News this week. If you'd like to learn more about these stories or others, you can pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper, or better yet, catch us on our website, occtv.org, on YouTube, and of course our regular cable channel, Spectrum, Channel 191, and AT&T Channel 99.
Coming up soon, OCTV's very own Cody Wright with school sports and school news incorporating great topics with Alexis Ware. And you won't want to miss Auto Talk and Science in the News with Dave Kenny.
I'm Terry Stiles. Thanks for watching Oxford News this week, where we bring your news closer to home.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, there's a problem with proteins, but we're one step closer to solving it. We aren't quite sure what the radius of a proton is, and a new way of measuring has helped us fix the puzzle. Until 2010, we were fairly sure about the size of the proton. We had measured it using hydrogen atoms, which are made up of one proton and one electron. But in 2010, a measurement using muonic hydrogen, where the electron is replaced by another particle called a muon, found a value 4% lower. That led to some speculation as to whether muons interact differently with protons than electrons do, and if that were the case, it would break the laws of physics, says Eric Hessels at York University in Canada. The standard model of particle physics would not accommodate a difference in those interactions, so we would need some sort of strange new force. Hessels and his colleagues developed a new way to measure the proton's radius by sending hydrogen atoms through two sets of radio waves with slightly different frequencies. This excited some of the atoms into a higher energy state. By measuring how many of the atoms remained in the lower energy state, the researchers could determine the difference in energy between the original lower energy state and the excited state. They used that energy difference to calculate the proton's radius. The final result matched the muonic hydrogen measurement, supporting the idea that the proton is smaller than we had thought by around 0.83 femtometers, or less than 1/1,000,000,000th of a meter. There are more and more measurements that seem to pile up at the smaller radius now, so maybe this puzzle will diffuse later, said Thomas Uden at the Max Planck Institute of Quantum Optics in Germany. Other experiments are underway that will provide further evidence of the proton's radius, he and Hessel say. And in space, Light Sail 2 has set sail on the solar breeze. Over the past few weeks, the spacecraft has demonstrated controlled solar sailing in orbit around the Earth for the first time. The small spacecraft was developed by the Planetary Society, a space advocacy group led by U.S. science communicator Bill Nye. It was launched aboard a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket on the June 25th and unfurled its sails from their boxes on July 23rd. The Planetary Society announced that operators had raised the spacecraft's orbit by about 1.7 kilometers, completing its main mission of demonstrating that solar sails work and can be used to steer. Solar sails are propelled by photons from the sun. As these photons bounce off a lightweight mirrored sail, they give it a small amount of energy that pushes it forward like wind in a sail on the sea. Light Sail 2 sails are thinner than a human hair, and their total surface area is 32 square meters. Each photon imparts a municipal force of energy to the sails, but over time the momentum adds up and the spacecraft continually accelerates. Friction from Earth's atmosphere will eventually slow Light Sail 2 down until it falls towards the ground and burns up in the air. Light Sail 2 will fly for almost a year, and we are going to learn a lot about controlling the spacecraft and the performance of the sails in the coming months, Nye said. That will help future light sails, which may be able to propel small spacecraft to other worlds in the solar system and perhaps even beyond. They do not require heavy chemical fuel like traditional spacecraft, so in theory they can accelerate to an appreciable fraction of the speed of light, especially if they are propelled by powerful lasers instead of sunlight. In our last story, the U.S.'s thirst for water, whether to drink or to grow crops, is encouraging an unsustainable trend towards even deeper groundwater wells. That is the warning from U.S. researchers who have produced the first map of the country's wells, spending 4 years painstakingly talking to scores of public authorities to unearth the data. Groundwater provides drinking water for 120 million Americans and around half the country's irrigation needs. But demand in places such as California's Central Valley is drying up existing wells, and engineers are drilling deeper ones to replace them. A mapping exercise by Deborah Perrone and Scott Jasecco at University of California, Santa Barbara found that there are 11.8 million wells in total, and they are becoming deeper over time. We wanted to make the invisible visible, said Perrone. Simply drilling deeper is an unsustainable stopgap to groundwater depletion, Perrone and Jasecco said, for 4 reasons: cost, energy for pumping, geology, and water usually becoming saltier the deeper you go. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to School News. I'm Alexis Ware. This school year is still off to a slow start, with Labor Day being this past week. The students are just now adjusting to their schedules, with Picture Day being Monday, September 9th for both Daniel Axford and Oxford Elementary School. That day, Oxford High School and Oxford Early Learning are also having their curriculum nights housed together in the high school starting at 6:30. Tuesday, September 10th is a Board of Ed meeting being held at the Oxford High School during its usual time of 6:30. On September 11th, Bridges is having their curriculum night. Thursday, September 12th is another Picture Day for Clear Lake Elementary. Daniel Axford is having their hearing screenings, and OMS has their first PTO meeting of the year in the Media Center starting at 7 o'clock. So as you can tell, not a ton of events going on right now, but that doesn't mean the students aren't working hard. I sat down with Ben Frecker as he discussed his new adventure in the Senior Center. Take a look. Yep, so I'm here with Ben. We met a few weeks ago at the ribbon cutting for the Senior Center, and tell us again what you were doing there.
So I am offering a course that helps seniors with any technology needs they may have. So I was there for just kind of showing some people the program at the open house that was going on.
Absolutely, and Ben is actually a senior this year at Oxford High School, so this is a really big year for him, the last year for him. How does it feel to be at the top of the food chain now?
It's nice, but college applications are coming in quick, and I am not very prepared, but it's all right.
I mean, and technology is obviously your thing, and we were kind of talking a little bit before the camera started rolling. So where are you trying to go?
So the 2 schools I was looking at are Michigan and Miami of Ohio, both for very different reasons, but I really think that the technology aspect along with something regarding business, because I really like people, and I think that I get too lost in the technology and all that stuff, and so I think that when I'm good at explaining that to people, as evidenced by the senior program, so I felt that was a good path for me to take.
Okay. Now, how did you first get involved? I mean, everything is technology based nowadays. You can't get away with, you can't get away with not knowing how to do something like that. But when did you figure out that you're really good at it and you're really good at explaining it, like you said?
So I started when I was a lot younger on Khan Academy. Actually, it was the first thing that I ever did any coding with.
And what is that?
It's a website. It has a coding feature. Coding's actually not its main thing. It just kind of shows people a lot about certain subjects that you may want to learn more about. But their coding course I really enjoyed. And then I actually sought out more education with a company called Accelerate Kid, and so I took classes with them for a while, and then eventually I graduated their course, and I now work there during the summers teaching them.
Okay, so you teach senior citizens who perhaps have no real knowledge of technology, but then when you dive into teaching people your own age or maybe a little bit younger, you go into kids who play with it and mess with it all day long. How is it different from explaining from two very separate ages?
I think kids are just generally a lot more distracted.
Yes.
But also they're constantly thinking up a lot of new interesting things. So with those classes, they have to create something. I think the imagination and like what they really create, sometimes I hadn't even thought of that. Like there was no way I could have thought of doing something like that or taking on something like that. And I'm always able to help them out or work through whatever problem they may be having. But it's really interesting to see like the creative ways that they solve problems.
Wow, and just going into the creativity and honestly the knowledge that you have to have behind that. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more about your knowledge, because school started, maybe a week ago,
yeah,
right?
1 week ago.
What kind of classes, especially as a senior, are you taking this year?
So I am taking 5 IB classes for the IB diploma, and then I am taking 2 online classes.
Oh,
so
wow.
The online classes are mostly so I have a break in the day.
Yeah. Ben's Tech Help with Ben classes are mostly geared towards seniors, but he says he's open to helping anyone who shows up. His days are the first and third Thursdays of every month from 3:30 until 5. To see the extended version of Ben's interview, be sure to stick around for the Schooling Around segment Monday through Friday at 11 and 3. But that about wraps up school news. Next up is Cody Wright with School Sports.
What's happening, Wildcat fans? Cody Wright back here once again with this week's sports report. With summer behind us now, we can fully dive into the fall season sports. This last week, just about every competing sports, boys and girls, had an event. So let's not waste any more time and dive right in. As you can remember, last year our Oxford football team opened up the season here at home, taking down the mighty Romeo Bulldogs. It was a great way to kick things off. However, this year was a bit different. Oxford traveled to Romeo to start the preseason action, and by the end of the night, Romeo redeemed themselves. Final score of the night was 41-14. It is way too early, however, to make any further season judgments. We'll just have to wait and see. Also, the boys soccer team took down Farmington here at home on the 27th, taking the win 2-0. The boys then traveled to Troy to keep the ball rolling, but that came to a stop on the 29th when the final score of 3-0. Both varsity and JV boys tennis teams also took on Davison on the 29th on the road. JV was a tight matchup, and that ended in them falling short 3-2. However, the varsity club absolutely shined with a shutout match ending 8-0. Also, the girls were on the schedule this week. The swim and dive team taking on our rivals in green here at home, doing things the right way, taking the meet win 105-80. I remember them last year. The girls swim team, they were outstanding. And lastly, the girls volleyball team competing, taking on 3 different schools on September 3rd. That was Flushing, North Branch, and Clarkston. The girls fell to both Flushing and Clarkston 2-1. However, North Branch stood no chance, the girls taking the game in 2 games 2-0. And anyhow, that is going to do it for this week's report. It finally feels like sports season again with all the action, and we look forward to this fall season ahead. For any more info on these events and more, go to oxfordathletics.org. There's plenty of game breakdowns, scores, statistics, and more all right there for you to check out. Once again, that is oxfordathletics.org. While you're at it, might as well check us out at OCCTV.org. All of our coverage of these events and more can be found on our YouTube page, which you can access through the website. Once again, that is OCCTV.org. I want to thank you all for watching and remind you all to tune in next time. But until then, I'm Cody Wright. Go Wildcats!
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, major automakers said on September 4th they have agreed to equip nearly all U.S. vehicles with systems to remind motorists of passengers in the back seat by model year 2025 in an effort to avoid deaths of young children left behind in hot cars. The announcement on the so-called rear seat reminder systems comes as the U.S. Congress has been debating the issue. In July, the Senate Commerce Committee passed by voice vote legislation to eventually require automakers to install technology on new vehicles alerting exiting parents to check for children in the back seat. The automakers from two trade groups representing nearly all automakers said the companies are committing to include audible and visual alerts on vehicles by the 2025 model year, but could get an additional 12 months for vehicles about to be redesigned and could exempt emergency motor vehicles. The 20 automakers taking part represent nearly 98% of all U.S. vehicle sales. The automakers include GM, Ford, Volkswagen, Toyota, Hyundai Motor Company, and Honda Motor Company. Fiat Chrysler Automobile said it will eventually adopt the reminder technology in all vehicles worldwide, but said timing by region will vary. GM has had a system on some U.S. vehicles since 2016 that provides audible alert and visual reminder on vehicle dashboard to check for a child before exiting. Lawmakers say more than 800 children in parked vehicles have died from heat stroke in the United States over the past 2 decades. The systems generally operate to alert a driver to the presence of a child if a rear door was opened at the start of a trip. Some safety advocates want a more advanced system that would detect the actual presence of a child in the back seat. U.S. Senator Roger Wicker, chairman of the Commerce Committee, said in an interview the voluntary agreement makes the legislation unnecessary. Under the legislation being considered, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration would be compelled to write regulations, and then automakers would have at least 2 years lead time. This gives us essentially everything we ask for, and it does it sooner, says Wicker, who added the Transportation Department plans to use some discretionary funds for a public information campaign. It's a huge win, he says. NHTSA typically takes years to write regulations. For example, a proposal to require automakers to send email notifications of recalls has been pending for more than 3 years. Wicker's bill would also direct states to use a portion of Highway Safety Program funds to educate the public on the risks of leaving a child or unattended passenger in a vehicle and require the Transportation Department to conduct a third-party study on retrofitting existing passenger motor vehicles. U.S. Representative Jan Schakowsky, who co-sponsored the legislation, noted earlier this year that many newer vehicles alert drivers if they leave the keys behind. And on the recall front, Ford Motor Company on August 30th issued 4 recalls for about 650,000 vehicles in North America, with various issues, including one for a potential seat defect in the F-150 and redesigned Ford Explorer. The seat recall affects more than 550,000 vehicles made at 5 assembly plants that could be missing a part required for seat back strength. The seats might not adequately restrain occupants in a crash, Ford said. It covers 2018 to 20 F-150s, 2019 to 20 Super Duties, 2018 to 20 Explorers, and 2019 to 20 Expeditions, and the 2020 Lincoln Navigator. The automaker said most of the vehicles are expected to pass a dealer inspection and should not require repair. It's the second recall for the 2020 Explorer and Aviator, which went into production in May and began reaching dealerships earlier this summer. Ford this month also recalled about 14,000 of the vehicles for a potential rollaway risk. Another recall issued August 30th affects nearly 100,000 vehicles in the U.S. and Canada that Ford said could lose their power steering assist in areas with high corrosion conditions. It covers 2013 to 16 Fusions and Lincoln MKZs, 2015 to 16 Edges, and 2016 Lincoln MKXs. Ford said the vehicles did not require, or receive that is, a proper application of wax coating, making their steering gear motor attachment bolts more susceptible to corrosion. That could result in steering gear motor detaching from this gear housing, Ford said. Ford is also recalling about 2,600 2019 Fiestas in the U.S. for potentially defective brake calipers, and only 50 of which have been delivered to customers. And it is recalling about 13,500 2012 to 2013 Fiestas in Canada with a defective part that could cause the low beam headlights to stop working. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways.